Have you ever noticed how the moment you stop reacting, things begin to expose themselves? The tension shifts, the truth surfaces. The real intentions behind people's words become clearer. Most of us were raised to believe that silence equals defeat, that if you don't explain yourself, defend your position, or respond quickly, you'll be misunderstood or taken advantage of. So we talk, we justify, we react, and little by little, we hand over our power without even noticing. But there is another kind of silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of self-command. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that some people reveal themselves only when you step back, that certain conflicts dissolve when you refuse to feed them, and that consequences work best when you don't interfere. This is not about passivity, it's about choosing restraint over impulse. Because there are moments when words weaken your position and silence allows calmer, real consequences to speak louder than you ever could. These are 7 of those moments. 1. When someone provokes you. There are moments when a person isn't trying to communicate at all. They're trying to extract a reaction from you. A sarcastic remark. A subtle insult framed as honesty. A tone designed to sting just enough to push you over the edge. In those moments, your body reacts before your mind does. Your heart rate increases, your jaw tightens. You feel the urge to correct them, defend yourself, or strike back so they don't get away with it. That urge feels natural, but it's exactly what gives them leverage. Because emotional provocation is never about truth. It's about control. The person provoking you wants proof that they can reach inside you and disturb something. Anger, insecurity, frustration, any response will do. The instant you give it to them, the dynamic changes. You're no longer observing the situation, you're trapped inside it. This is where Stoic silence becomes a tool, not the silence of repression, not holding everything in until it explodes later, but the silence of conscious choice, the pause where you recognize the trap and refuse to step into it. When you don't react, something uncomfortable happens, not for you, but for them. The joke falls flat. The jab hangs awkwardly in the air. The energy they expected never arrives, and suddenly they're exposed. People reveal themselves most clearly when their attempts to provoke fail, and there's no emotional reaction to hide behind. Their behavior stands on its own. Others notice. Even they notice. The imbalance becomes visible. This is what people often label karma, but it isn't mystical, it's mechanical. You didn't shame them, you didn't attack them, you simply stopped shielding them from the consequences of their own behavior. Stoic silence here is not weakness, it's restraint under pressure, it's emotional discipline, it's knowing that not every stimulus deserves a response, and not every battle is worth entering. Marcus Aurelius warned against becoming a puppet pulled by strings. Emotional provocation is one of the most common strings people use. If someone can make you angry on demand, they don't need authority over you, they already have access. Silence cuts that access. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means you don't speak reactively. You don't reward bad behavior with attention. You don't teach people which buttons to press. Instead, you remain still. You observe. You let the moment pass without feeding it. And here's the deeper truth most people miss. When you stay calm in the face of provocation, you preserve your clarity. You see the situation as it actually is, not through the distortion of emotion. That clarity protects you long after the moment ends. The person trying to provoke you may feel powerful for a brief second, but without your reaction, that power collapses. What remains is their impulse fully exposed. So the next time someone tries to drag you into emotional chaos, remember this: you don't prove strength by reacting. You prove it by refusing to be controlled. Stay silent. Stay centered. Let their behavior complete the conversation for them. 2. When you're being misunderstood on purpose. Not every misunderstanding is accidental. Sometimes people hear exactly what you said and choose to twist it anyway. Not because they're confused, but because confusion gives them leverage. It allows them to question your motives, challenge your character, or pull you into endless explanations that drain your energy. In these moments, your instinct is to clarify, to slow everything down, rephrase your words, and make sure you're seen correctly. That instinct feels reasonable. But when someone is committed to misunderstanding you, clarity becomes a trap. Because the goal was never understanding. The goal was control. When you keep explaining yourself to someone who doesn't want the truth, you teach them something dangerous, that they're entitled to access your inner world, that they can keep you talking, justifying, defending while they sit comfortably in judgment. Stoic silence draws a clear boundary here. It starts with recognizing the pattern. 1 clarification is fair, 2 may still be honest attempts. But when every explanation leads to another accusation, another distortion, another "that's not what you meant," you're no longer communicating, you're performing. And performance always costs you power. The Stoic response isn't hostility, it's precision. You state your position once, clearly, calmly, without emotional weight. Then you stop. No speeches, no over-explaining, no chasing approval. Your words stand on their own. When you do this, something shifts. The person expecting endless explanations is left with nothing to push against. Without your anxiety filling the space, their insistence looks exactly like what it is: resistance to truth, not confusion about it. This is where people say, "Let karma handle it." Again, karma isn't punishment. It's exposure. When you stop explaining, others begin to notice the imbalance. They see one person being clear and measured, and another constantly moving the goalposts. The mask slips, the dynamic reveals itself. The Stoics understood that truth doesn't need volume. It needs consistency. If you're honest, your actions will eventually align with your words. And when they do, forced misunderstandings collapse under their own weight. No argument required. More importantly, silence protects your inner stability. Constantly trying to be understood by someone acting in bad faith slowly erodes your self-trust. You start questioning your tone, your intentions, even your perception of reality. That's the real danger. By choosing silence, you reclaim authority over your own mind. You're not being rude, you're not being cold, you're refusing to negotiate with distortion. There is strength in letting people sit with the consequences of their refusal to understand you. There is dignity in not begging for clarity when clarity has already been offered. So when someone keeps twisting your words, remember this: you don't owe endless explanations to someone determined to misunderstand you. You owe yourself peace. Speak once, stand by it, then step back. Let truth hold its ground without your anxiety holding it up. 3. When someone lies about you. Few things trigger the urge to react more intensely than knowing someone is spreading lies about you. A rumor circulates. Your words are twisted. Your intentions are questioned behind your back. And suddenly, there's an urgent need to fix it, to correct the story, explain your side, chase down everyone who might have heard something false. It feels like damage control. It feels necessary. But this is where most people make serious mistakes. They fight lies with noise. The Stoics understood that lies don't gain strength because they're clever. They gain strength because people panic in response. The more desperately you defend yourself, the more attention you give the falsehood, and attention is oxygen. When someone lies about you, their goal is rarely truth. It's reaction, confusion, a shift in perception that forces you into defense while they stay hidden. If you rush to respond emotionally, you step straight into their strategy. Stoic silence here isn't denial, it's discipline. Instead of chasing the lie, you anchor yourself in consistency. You don't change how you show up. You don't overcorrect. You don't suddenly perform goodness to prove innocence. You continue acting in alignment with who you've always been. This feels deeply uncomfortable at first. Silence can feel like surrender when your reputation seems threatened. But in reality, it's the most stable position you can take, because lies are fragile. They require constant maintenance. They rely on memory, coordination, and repetition. One contradiction can fracture the entire structure. Truth, by contrast, supports itself. It doesn't need rehearsal. It doesn't require emotional reinforcement. This is where what people call karma quietly steps in. When you remain silent and steady, the person lying is forced to keep talking, to keep adjusting, to keep track of which version they shared and with whom. Over time, inconsistencies surface, patterns form. People begin to sense that something isn't right, not because you argued, but because reality stopped matching the story. Your silence doesn't shield the lie, it isolates it. There is also a deeper Stoic reason for restraint here. Your character is not formed in moments of defense, but in moments of pressure. Reacting emotionally to lies often pushes you to compromise your values. You gossip back, you exaggerate, you attack motives. Even if you win, you lose something internally. Silence preserves your integrity. It prevents you from becoming the very thing you're trying to protect yourself from. This doesn't mean you never speak. There are times when clear, factual correction is necessary, but the Stoic difference lies in timing and tone. You respond once, calmly, without emotion. Then you return to action, not argument. You let your life speak louder than the rumor. Over time, people trust patterns more than stories. They notice who remains consistent and who keeps shifting narratives. And when the lie finally collapses, it does so under its own weight, not because you pushed it. So when someone lies about you, remember this: you don't defeat falsehood by chasing it. You defeat it by outlasting it. Stay consistent. Stay grounded. Let truth prove itself without your panic getting in the way. On 4, when they want closure but don't deserve access. Where are moments when someone hurts you, crosses a line, or betrays your trust, then returns asking to talk things through? They want closure. One last conversation. A chance to explain themselves, hear your thoughts, or ease the discomfort they created. On the surface, it sounds reasonable, even mature, but not every request for closure is sincere. Often, it's an attempt to regain access, to reopen a door that was closed for a reason, to pull you back into an emotional space where they still hold influence. Your instinct may be to give them that conversation, to be fair, to be understood, to end things properly. Yet this is where silence becomes an act of self-respect. The Stoics were clear about one thing: peace is not owed to those who disturb it. Closure is not something another person gives you through dialogue. It's something you claim through acceptance. And when someone has already shown you who they are through their actions, more words rarely bring clarity. They bring confusion. When you agree to a final conversation with someone who has repeatedly disrespected you, you're not resolving the past. You're reopening it. You give them room to justify, minimize, or reframe what happened. You offer them relief from guilt while carrying the emotional weight yourself. Stoic silence refuses that exchange. This kind of silence isn't about punishment. It's about boundaries. It says, you no longer have access to my inner world. And this is where what people call karma quietly takes over. When you deny someone closure they haven't earned, they're left alone with their actions. Without your words to soften the edges, they must sit with the discomfort they caused. That discomfort becomes the lesson, not because you forced it, but because you stopped absorbing it for them. Many people mistake silence here for cruelty. In reality, it's honesty without negotiation. You're recognizing that the relationship has reached its natural end, and you're choosing not to extend it artificially through conversation. There's also a deeper Stoic wisdom at work. Continuing to explain yourself to someone who already violated your trust keeps you emotionally tied to the past. Silence cuts that tie. It allows your nervous system to settle. It stops your mind from replaying old conversations. It creates space for clarity, not for them, but for you. This doesn't mean you carry resentment. Stoic silence is calm, not cold. You don't announce your withdrawal or dramatize your absence. You simply stop engaging, and in that absence, something powerful happens. The person seeking closure often expected control, one last emotional exchange, one final chance to influence how you see them. When that doesn't happen, they face a reality they can't negotiate. Some doors close without explanation. That isn't revenge, that's consequence. So when someone asks for closure without taking responsibility, remember this: you're not responsible for easing the discomfort of someone who disrupted your peace. You're responsible for protecting your own. Sometimes the most honest ending has no conversation at all. You step back, you remain silent, and you let the lesson land where it belongs. 5. When disrespect is disguised as humor. Disrespect rarely arrives loudly. More often, it slips in wearing a smile, a joke that cuts a little too deep, a comment that draws laughter at your expense, followed by, "Relax, I'm just kidding." In these moments, you feel the sting immediately, but you're expected to laugh it off. If you react, you're too sensitive. If you don't, the behavior continues. This is one of the most common ways people test boundaries without taking responsibility for crossing them. Your instinct may be to respond with sarcasm, fire back with a sharper joke, or explain why the comment wasn't funny. But all of those reactions still feed the same dynamic. They keep the game alive. Stoic silence ends it. When disrespect is masked as humor, silence removes the audience. A joke depends on participation. It needs laughter, reaction, or emotional movement to survive. When none of that comes, the comment lands awkwardly, exposed, unsupported, and uncomfortable. That discomfort is not yours to resolve. Most people rush to smooth things over because silence feels tense, but that tension carries information. It reveals what the joke really was, not humor, but a bid for dominance or validation. The Stoics understood that dignity isn't defended through explanation, but through presence. You don't argue with disrespect, you don't compete with it, you let it stand alone. And this is where people say, "Let karma handle it." Again, nothing mystical is happening. What happens instead is simple and unavoidable. Without your reaction, the person has to sit with their own words. Others sense the shift. The laughter fades. The comment doesn't land as intended. The mask slips. Silence also sends a clear, unspoken signal. I don't participate in this dynamic. No confrontation, no scene, just withdrawal of engagement. For people who rely on subtle disrespect to feel superior, that withdrawal is deeply unsettling. There's another layer here that matters just as much: your self-respect. Every time you laugh along with a joke that diminishes you, you teach others and yourself that your boundaries are negotiable. Over time, those small compromises accumulate. You start to feel smaller, less grounded, less certain of where you stand. Stoic silence protects against that erosion. It allows you to stay aligned with your values without announcing them. You don't need to say, "That was disrespectful." Your lack of response communicates it more clearly than words ever could. This doesn't mean you're passive, it means you're selective. There may be moments when a calm, direct statement is appropriate, but when disrespect hides behind humor, silence is often the most precise response. It refuses to legitimize the behavior while preserving your composure. And here's the final truth. People who rely on disrespectful humor depend on others to carry the emotional weight. When you stop carrying it, they're left holding it alone. That's the consequence. So the next time a joke crosses a line, remember this: you don't need to defend your dignity. You need to stop lending it to those who mock it. Stay silent, stay grounded. Let the absence of your reaction reveal the truth. 6. When someone wants control, not connection. Not everyone who demands your attention is seeking understanding. Some people don't want dialogue. They want leverage. They ask questions that aren't really questions. They push for explanations that never satisfy them. They provoke reactions, then accuse you of overreacting. At first, it feels like communication, like a conflict that just needs clarity. But over time, a pattern appears. No matter how calmly you explain yourself, the tension never resolves. It resets. The issue isn't misunderstanding, it's control. And control depends on access. When someone can pull you into emotional exchanges whenever they want, they gain influence over your time, your energy, and your mental state. The more you respond, the more they learn how to keep you engaged. Every reaction becomes information. Every explanation becomes a tool. Stoic silence interrupts that process. Instead of meeting every demand for a response, you pause. You shorten your replies. You stop justifying your choices. You don't rush to fill the silence when they grow uncomfortable. This isn't avoidance, it's discernment. Real connection doesn't require pressure. People who genuinely want understanding are willing to meet you halfway. They listen, they reflect, they respect boundaries. Those who seek control do none of that. They escalate when they don't get what they want. Silence exposes this difference with absolute clarity. When you stop reacting, the person trying to control the dynamic loses traction. They may push harder at first. More messages, sharper tones, accusations designed to trigger guilt or fear. This isn't a sign that silence is wrong. It's proof that it's working. This is where what people call karma shows up as consequence. Without your engagement, their tactics become more visible. The need to dominate replaces any illusion of connection. Others may begin to notice the imbalance. Even they start to feel the loss of influence. You didn't confront them. You didn't accuse them. You simply removed the access they depended on. There's also a deeper Stoic reason for choosing silence here. Engaging with someone who seeks control slowly trains your nervous system to stay on edge. You start anticipating their reactions, crafting responses in advance, adjusting your behavior to avoid conflict. That's not communication, that's captivity. Silence breaks that conditioning. By stepping away from unnecessary exchanges, you reclaim inner stability. You stop living in response mode. You return to acting from principle instead of pressure. This doesn't mean disappearing without explanation. It means communicating boundaries through consistency. Short replies, neutral tone, no emotional hooks. Over time, the message becomes unmistakable. Access is no longer automatic, and when control is no longer available, two outcomes follow. Either the person adjusts and meets you with respect, or they escalate and expose themselves fully. Both outcomes bring clarity. Stoicism teaches that peace is not found by managing other people's behavior, but by managing your own responses. When you stop giving people control over your attention, you take responsibility for your freedom. So when someone keeps pulling you into draining exchanges, remember this: not every conversation is meant to connect. Some are designed to dominate. You don't defeat control by arguing with it. You defeat it by stepping out of reach. Stay silent, stay firm. Let the loss of access teach the lesson. 7. When walking away is the lesson. There comes a point when nothing more needs to be said. Not because you lack words, but because words have already done all they can. You've explained, you've clarified, you've given chances, boundaries, and time. And still, the pattern remains unchanged. This is the moment many people resist the most, the urge to say one last thing, to send a final message, to make sure they really understand how they hurt you. It feels unfinished without closure. It feels like silence lets them win. But that final urge isn't about resolution, it's about attachment. The Stoics understood that attachment is what keeps us trapped in cycles long after the lesson has already been delivered. When a situation keeps repeating, the problem is no longer misunderstanding, it's tolerance. Walking away in silence isn't avoidance, it's recognition. Recognition that the situation has taught you everything it's going to teach. Recognition that further engagement only delays the inevitable. Recognition that your peace is no longer compatible with the dynamic in front of you. This is where what people call karma does its most important work. When you walk away quietly, there's no dramatic ending, no explosion, no villain, no hero. There is only absence. And absence forces reflection in a way confrontation never can. Without your presence to react against, the other person is left alone with the pattern they helped create. They may not reflect immediately, they may even blame you. But eventually, the silence becomes impossible to ignore. There is no conversation left to manipulate, no emotion to redirect, no access point remaining. That is the lesson. Stoicism teaches that you don't need to announce your departure. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to be understood by everyone in order to act with integrity. Your responsibility ends where self-respect begins. There's also a profound internal shift that happens when you leave without noise. Your mind stops replaying old arguments. Your body relaxes. Your attention returns to the present instead of staying anchored to the past. Silence creates space, not only externally, but internally, and in that space, clarity grows. This kind of departure is often misunderstood. People call it cold, unfair, cowardly, but those judgments usually come from those who benefited from your presence. They confuse your silence with abandonment, when in reality, it's alignment. Alignment with your values, alignment with your limits, alignment with the truth you've already seen. And the final Stoic insight is this: walking away isn't about teaching them a lesson, it's about ending your own participation in one. When you leave without drama, you don't carry resentment forward. You don't need revenge. You don't wait for outcomes. You simply move on. That isn't weakness, that's mastery. So when the moment comes where staying costs you more than leaving, remember this: you don't owe a final explanation to close a chapter. Your absence is explanation enough. Step back. Stay silent. Let the lesson land. Let yourself be free. Silence is often misunderstood. People think it means you've lost your voice, your confidence, or your ground. But as you've seen, the right kind of silence isn't retreat, it's alignment. Across these 7 moments, the pattern is clear. When you stop reacting, you